Oh, we're back, baby. We got the cigar lit. We can reward ourselves with a little treat this Sunday evening because we had a winning weekend at Las Vegas 50. Ankalaev versus Santos. Amazing event in the UFC. Had a little bit of degenerate fun on Eagle FC on Friday that was successful, so it's always nice to ride into the UFC events with a little bit of momentum for the night, and it sure paid off. Some of the best bets video picks that I put out, some came through, some didn't. Some of the underdogs did not do their job, but the heavy favorites that we were confident in definitely stepped up and performed, although there were some sketchy spots. So let's get into the money line picks that I had put out. I put out two. I got really underdog happy this week. A lot of underdogs I liked. I liked a total of 4 underdogs in the card, I believe it was, at the end of the day, and only 2 of them came through. The ones that I put out, AJ Fletcher, I thought there was a lot of value on him. He unfortunately lost the decision to Matt Semmelsberger. I thought that he started off very, very good, though, and I think he showed the value side of that bet at, at the high end. It was like plus 200, I believe he was. When I got him, I think I got him at like plus 190, and then he started to taper off. And like I said, I would have placed that bet anywhere plus 170 and above on AJ Fletcher. And I thought he looked every bit of, the prospect we thought he would be, or at least I believed he would be against Matt Semmelsberger. Very athletic, very powerful, getting the dominant positions early in the first round. But he just tapered off, and Matt Semmelsberger ended up, once AJ Fletcher got a bit tired, Matt Semmelsberger was able to take over and pretty much ride out those control time positions. Rain down some ground and pound in rounds 2 and 3 and edge out that decision. So I definitely think AJ Fletcher was still the value side. At plus 190, I would probably make that bet again. I don't think that was as much of a bad read, as I was kind of beating myself up for last night when I watched the fight. But we lost that underdog pick there. Trevin Jones, this one was probably a bad read on my part. I still, at plus money, he didn't look like the value side, and it was mostly because he was very, very low volume, not throwing a lot of attempts out, very flat-footed, which is his style. His style is definitely being more of a flat-footed, power-punching guy. But I think I underestimated, this is the bad read on my part, is I underestimated Javid Basharat. It was kind of hard to gauge him, and I admitted this in my breakdown video. It was kind of hard to gauge him against the level of competition that he had faced up to this point. This is his biggest test, but he stepped up to the plate in his debut and looked very, very smooth with the striking. Clean, always all the way in or all the way out, very clean movement. And he ate the shots of Trevin Jones. The Trevin Jones did have his moments that I thought he would, where he was able to read the timing of Javid, catch him on his way in, counter him with some powerful shots. But Javid ate those shots and, kept coming in for a decisive win there. So those 2 underdog picks did not come through. The underdog picks that did come through were Guido Canetti, which was a low confidence one, but everybody and their mother was on Chris Moutinho to win this fight against the 42-year-old bantamweight. I get it to some extent, but at the end of the day, Chris Moutinho is a bum. The other underdog that I had, JJ Aldrich, she came through. I think she was even money, but still an underdog when I played her, like plus 105 or something like that. So she came through, and then not only that, so getting to the props, we already talked about the Matt Semmelsberger, AJ Fletcher fight going to decision. So that under 2.5 did not work out for us. As far as the 4 props I put out, 2 of the props came through. So pretty even keel on underdogs and on props. So JJ Aldrich and Jillian Robertson going to decision plus 100. I remember I couldn't believe my eyes on Bovada Sportsbook when I made that bet. So I put a couple units on that, and that was easy money for a women's fight to get plus 100, even money coming back. So very, very good there. JJ herself came through, looked good. Miranda Maverick, the other women's fight on this card, minus 110 for decision prop to transform that big favorite down to a minus 110. I don't regret that bet. I don't think that was a bad value bet, but she did manage to get it done inside the distance and ruin that decision prop for us. One that was a saving grace of my night as far as profit-wise goes, Mirzakhanov. Azamat Mirzakhanov coming in, making his official debut against Stefan Nchukwi. Fight does not go the distance. That did not look like it was going to happen in rounds 1 and 2. This is a classic MMA performance. This is why I love this sport. This is why everybody loves this sport. Because a guy like Azamat Mirzakhanov can be, doing horribly in round 1, horribly in round 2. Well, I shouldn't say horribly, but he was decisively losing the fight in rounds 1 and 2. Comes through with a flying knee at 44 seconds into round 3. Completely ices Stefan Nchukwi, who was winning that fight up until that point. Even as a Mirzakhanov backer, and as I had him on this prop fight doesn't go the distance, and I had him on closing out a parlay I'll get into later on. he still had to kind of feel bad for Tafon and Chukwi having done just enough to win rounds 1 and 2, have a clear game plan, clearly getting the edge over the slower, not slower, but more. He was kind of a plodding, flat-footed approach for Mirzakhanov, looking for those power strikes, trying to stalk down Nchukwi, who just always had the better of him in rounds 1 and 2. And then to just all that hard work gets unraveled in the third round when you think Mirzakhanov will be tired. I mean, it was just a beautiful moment betting-wise, though, because he closed out a nice parlay for us later on. So we'll get into that at this point. Somebody had commented on Fight Day. Somebody commented on one of my videos asking for what my parlays look like, what my parlay scheme looked like. And I gave out my first parlay. I had a 2-leg, a 4-leg, and a 6-leg parlay. The first 2-leg parlay was Magomed Ankalaev taking on paired with Sadiq Youssef. So that 2-leg parlay for minus 145 combined odds. I had 6 units on that. Then I added on to that to make a 4-leg parlay. I added on Alex Pereira and Yadong Song. I put four units on that 4-leg parlay now for plus 256 odds. That came through for 10 units profit as well. And then the third addition to that to make a 6-leg parlay was Miranda Maverick and Azamat Mirzakhanov for a plus 647 odds. I put 2 units on that. So coming through, oh man, that was just a lot, 13 units on just that last leg alone for the 6-leg parlay. So whoever commented that, I hope you cashed with me because we cleared the board on all 3 of those parlays, the 2-leg, the 4-leg, and the 6-leg. Those are when I make those giant parlays where I add progressively, I add a 2-leg and then I add 2 more fighters, 2 more. These are my most confident fighters. These are the ones that I really think will just go in there and get the job done. Notice these are all favorites, so, but I mean, they're not every single favorite in the card, obviously, because there's some favorites that aren't trustworthy. These were the ones that ranked in order of trustworthiness. I thought Sadiq Youssef had the best chance. Ankalaev, probably the second best chance. Pereira, Song. So I'm kind of ranking my 1 through 6 most confident fighters when I make that kind of arrangement. So just amazing profit on there. And for Mirzakhanov to come through and save that 6-leg parlay the way he did in the third round out of nowhere, just a Hail Mary flying knee, absolutely incredible. So that pretty much wraps up. Oh, and then also I had this huge multi-leg parlay where Ankalaev closed that out as well. So that was kind of a lot of work. That was from like a month ago of fight nights, where I just chose like confident fighters on each event. So that's kind of another way you could do that too. If you see obvious picks or picks that you think are very, very likely from event to event, if your bookie lets you place those bets, and you usually get a pretty good, the odds haven't changed yet on those later fight cards. So I had stacked all the way back, who did I have on there? Let me see. I know I put this out in my last video. It was like Jonathan Martinez was on there. There was a lot of like fight cards from 4 weeks ago. I won't get into it. I went into it in my breakdown video, but it was supposed to be like a 8-leg parlay, but a lot of the fights, this is the problem with that though, some of the fights get canceled along the way because you're projecting a parlay 6 weeks in advance, so some fights just don't happen. So it ended up being instead of a 7 or 8-leg parlay, it went down to a 5, but Ankalaev closed that out. That's how you kind of make more of a boring, it wasn't exactly a boring fight, that Ankalaev Santos, but it was, a lumbering 205. It was Santos not being very active, Ankalaev playing a safe fight. And it was kind of one of those, it was like a more active version of Santos versus Walker, in my opinion. Very, very tense if you've got a lot of money on it, but entertainment value-wise, I mean, they were just very, very tentative and respectful of each other's power. So it was tense in its own way because both very powerful men. But boy, to close this out, get back in the winning train after losing last week. Very, very happy with it. The reads, I think the reads were pretty good. We chose the value side. Sometimes it's just the way it shakes out. Like you got a guy like AJ Fletcher, plus 200 favorite or plus 200 underdog. I think I would make that bet again, in all honesty. The Trevin Jones ones, I'll admit, probably a bad read on his opponent, Javid Basharat. The props, I thought we did a pretty good job on the props too. Sometimes they just don't come through. I should have probably paid more attention to the finishing potential of Miranda Maverick. But to transform a minus 300 plus price tag of Maverick for a minus 110 decision, I probably would make that again, So I'll try to get sharper. Even though we're winning, we'll try to get sharper, make better reads each time. But all in all, a pretty good result. And I'll probably be more transparent about some of the parlays I put out ahead of time. Like I said, somebody had commented out asking me what they were on fight day. I usually like to make those progressive parlays on fight day. That way I've had time to look at the weigh-ins and see every piece of information before I parlay a bunch of guys together. So maybe I'll do a fight day release where I just release the parlays or put it on Twitter or something like that at Combat @addict1 on the Twitter. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and yeah, we'll get back to this action next week. It's a fun London card, so early fight start time. Maybe have some mimosas, some brunch, and get back to the money making. All right, cheers.